Have you ever found yourself in an art museum looking at a work of art and kind of scratching your head going, am I missing something here? Well, you are not alone. There are so many people everywhere who think that they have to have a PhD in art history in order to connect with works of art. And in those moments when you're looking at something that can make you feel uncomfortable, you can get really frustrated. Now, at best, maybe you just shrug it off. You move on, you go to the cafeteria, it's not a big deal. But at worst, you could feel alienated, unwelcome, and even stupid. But I'm here to tell you that you don't actually have to be smart to enjoy looking at art. It just takes a little bit of being present and pushing past that discomfort. Now, art can be really intimidating. And with European art having a history of elitism and being associated with high society, if you don't think of yourself as being part of elite societies, then it's no wonder that you don't feel connected to certain artworks. And, it's no wonder that when you look at something, you just might feel like you can't connect with it, you can't make sense of it. And if you are not connected to something, you can't appreciate it. But how are you supposed to even connect with it in the first place if you don't even know how to access it and how to find a way in? Studies have shown that the average person who visits an art museum looks at a work of art for 28 seconds. And a recent study at the Louvre said that the average person visiting the Mona Lisa looks at that work of art for 9 seconds. Can you imagine going all the way to Paris just to look at the Mona Lisa for 9 seconds? Now, there could be lots of different reasons for this. I mean, many of us have grown up seeing the Mona Lisa a million times. You've seen it on tote bags, on calendars. Maybe it was in a poster in your 5th grade art teacher's class. So maybe when people see that Mona Lisa, and I'm sure it's crowded and they're hungry, and they see it over there and they just kind of go, I got it, I'm good. Or but they just don't really know what to look at or how to connect with it. Now, Leonardo would be rolling over in his grave, but I get it, if you don't know what you're looking at, how can you really connect with it? Now, as somebody who has studied art and has worked in art museums for a long time, I feel that knowing about art is super cool. And I don't want to shade any of the experts in this room or anywhere else who love learning about art. I have gotten so much from art history. It has really opened the world up to me. And I would never say to anyone, don't learn about art history. But really, what this talk is all about is developing some tools for everyone to have fun, whether they have a degree or not. And especially in today's chaotic world, when there's so much going on out there and in our minds, just slowing down and connecting with a work of art can be such a wonderful and even healing experience. And I really believe that, being in the moment with works of art and getting excited or getting interested in it can also lead to further exploration. But in order to connect with something, you really have to have a feeling about it. You need to have an emotional connection to it, which is why when I teach in art museums, I like to ask one super simple but very important question. How does this artwork make you feel? And I did this with a group of 10 friends. And all of these friends would not necessarily consider themselves to be art historians or visual artists. And only a couple of them had ever seen this work of art that I'm about to talk about before. Most of them just had no real familiarity with it at all. The work of art was Jackson Pollock's One Number 31. So I didn't want to get in any kind of trouble with TED, so I didn't even try putting the image up there because I don't have the rights to it. So I just want everybody to imagine, I think a lot of us have probably seen a Jackson Pollock before in our lives, or could imagine what one might look like. This particular one is 8 feet by 17 feet. It's huge. And it's just, so imagine just a big canvas. And Pollock worked in a really interesting way. He would put his canvases down on the floor and run all around them, famously dropping paint on the canvas. He would smoke while he was painting, so he would drop ashes in there as well. He might drop food wrappers in the painting. So imagine this huge painting with the classic Jackson Pollock splatter paint in black, white, browns, greens, beiges. It's kind of like these like forest colors, essentially. So try to imagine that. Again, I just didn't want to get sued by TED, so we'll have to use our imaginations. And when I asked my 10 friends how this artwork made them feel, here is what they said. So my friends didn't mince any words. A lot of them said that this painting made them feel anxious. It made them feel chaotic. Quite a few simply said, this painting makes me feel bad, which I really liked. It was just like, I can't really define this feeling, it's just bad. Some of them said that it made them feel stressed, it made them feel sad, confused, overwhelmed. And then a couple of them said, this painting actually makes me feel excited. One said, this actually makes me feel pacified or calm. And one of my friends said that it felt like walking through a forest. And so it's not that those friends who had a different perspective on this painting were wrong. In fact, when I investigated this painting a little bit further, I did some research on the Museum of Modern Art website, because that's where this painting can be found in New York City. And there was this very interesting quote by a curator from that museum, and I'll paraphrase it here. It was something like that this painting captured the feeling of both the kind of exhilarating and thrilling sense of the, actually I'll start over, sorry, because I'm realizing I'm not exactly remembering it. So what this quote said was, this painting registers the thrill of the space exploration or the space race, along with the looming terror of nuclear invasion or nuclear war. So what this said to me was that this expert who's commenting on this famous Jackson Pollock painting was not saying anything that was that different from what my friends said about it. You know, my friends just using their gut reactions and saying how this painting made them feel, they actually captured this same sentiment that this, you know, esteemed expert said. So my point there is that when we trust ourselves and when we actually just let something wash over us and even maybe admit, like, I don't like this, we might get to a greater understanding that might actually be smart by accident. So a word here, though, about culturally specific artworks. So when you're in an art museum of, let's say, ancient Greek and Roman art, like I am here in this photograph. This is an urn in the background from ancient Etruria, so it's about 2,500 years old, and it can be seen at the Getty Villa in Los Angeles, California. And so when you're looking at something like this ancient urn, you know, I would still recommend being present with your feelings, asking yourself what you think about it, what you notice about it, do I like it or not? But if you think about ancient Etruria, their lives were different from ours today. There were some things that were always the same because humans were always, you know, they were born, they died, they felt love, they felt fear, they were hungry. So there are certain things that we had in common, but there were also some things that were very different over 2,000 years ago. So when we use our gut to sort of try to explain or interpret something from a different culture or country from ours, we might not get the full picture. But I still really would recommend this way of approaching a new artwork from a different culture as well. Just spending that time to ask yourself what you notice about it, what you think about it, but then maybe do that little more research. So, aside from this very important tool of simply asking, how do I feel about this, and being present with something and kind of letting that be your jumping off point for enjoying a work of art, there are a couple of other things that you can do too that I think are really fun, really easy, and can really connect you with art in a fun new way. In the middle is one of my favorite strategies for engaging people of all ages in an art museum, which is simply drawing. You know, there's nothing that says you can't bring a notebook and a pencil with you to an art museum and sit there and draw something. It's one of the most just mindful, most lovely experiences. I definitely recommend it, especially now when things feel really chaotic and you want to just sit somewhere and meditate. Take your notebook out and a pencil and just look at a work of art and draw it. It does not have to be perfect. It just helps you to see something a little bit differently. And something I really love about this picture is that the children are totally free to sprawl out on the floor and get comfortable. And where you probably don't want to lie all around the floors of the Met, you could probably, sit down or, make yourself a little cozier. There's nothing that really says that you can't just sit for a while and just be a little more comfortable. I would recommend probably asking a security officer if that's okay. But there are these freedoms that maybe you might not necessarily get that you have, because museums can be really intimidating places. But you don't have to sit on that hard bench, and you don't have to stand. You could sit or maybe even lie down. And then over there on the left-hand side, what I'm doing there is I am working with a group at an art museum in Dubai, and we are singing a painting. So this is another really lovely exercise where we took an abstract work of art, and everyone in that group assigned a different sound to a different part of the painting, and then we, just going from left to right, we sang the whole painting. It was a wonderful way to look closer, to be able to ask yourself, what would this part of the painting, what would it sound like if I had to assign a sound to it? And it was such a nice way to connect and make an artwork come to life that's different from me just sitting there and lecturing about it. And then over there, all the way on the right, I think I'm super funny. I went to Greece a few years ago, and every time I saw a column, I posed like that column. And it just led to a bunch of really stupid pictures, but it was really fun. And this is a great activity that I recommend that anyone do in any art museum, because when you use your body to interpret a work of art, it's that same sort of thing as singing a painting, where it forces you to look a little bit more closely and sort of do your own interpretation, this time a physical or kinesthetic interpretation of what that artwork might be. But really, at the end of the day, it's all about being present, letting something just sit with you. You don't have to like it. You can say, I don't like that thing. And then I would just encourage you to just take that next step and say, why don't I like it? What's going on here for me? What else do I notice in this artwork? And then on top of that, yes, just be curious. Talk to your friends. I mean, going to a museum with other people and talking about the works together is such a lovely experience. Ask your friends what they think, and it's okay if you don't think the same things that they do. Trust yourself. If you think about that exercise I did with my friends, I mean, they basically came up with the interpretation of that painting together, and it was the same kind of interpretation that an expert had of it. So trust yourself. If you're like, I don't really like this, or this makes me feel kind of gross or weird, maybe that's what the artist was trying to achieve. And lastly, just enjoy yourself. Try to have fun. Engage in your own way. You can laugh in an art museum. If you've ever gone to a museum of medieval paintings, the Jesus babies do not look normal in those paintings. It's okay to laugh at them. And at the end of the day, just have fun, approach it lightly. It's just an art museum, and you might actually realize that you are smarter than you think. Thank you very much.